Have you ever placed your complete trust in the idea that family would always be there as your safest shelter, the one place where love wrapped around you like a warm blanket no matter how stormy life became? Picture a young man who grew up believing exactly that, only to discover in the most painful way that the people who should have protected his heart were the ones quietly breaking it piece by piece. His name is Oliver, and his story begins with a betrayal so deep it still takes your breath away. His own parents transferred the family home they had raised their children in straight into his younger sister's name. Then they took out a huge mortgage on that very house, spent the money without a word to him, and when the truth started to surface, they looked him in the eye and lied. Not long after, they took him to court, demanding he pay for their support for the rest of their lives. But Oliver refused to be crushed by the weight of their choices. He stood strong in that courtroom, faced every false claim with quiet courage, and when the judge's gavel fell, he walked out on his own terms, carrying his dignity and his future with him. I used to believe that family was the safest place in the world, but I was wrong. Life taught me a painful truth. Not every child receives equal love at home. If you are here for the first time, be sure to subscribe to the channel and join our community. You will not want to miss what happens next in Oliver's journey, because every chapter holds a lesson that might feel very close to your own heart. For years I had always felt like a guest in my own house, as if I were simply passing through rooms that never quite welcomed me the way they welcomed my younger sister Tara, who was 2 years behind me. Since I was young, I knew I was different from Tara in the eyes of our parents. She was the star of the family, while I learned early to rely on myself. Tara was showered with care and affection while I was left to figure things out alone. Our parents were average middle-class people. Money was never a big problem. They could afford to raise both of us well. But instead, they placed all their dreams, love, and attention on Tara. Whenever Tara asked for something, my parents did everything possible to get it for her. But if I ever wanted anything, they always had a reason to refuse. I remember when I was 6, I received a teddy bear for Christmas. It was soft and brown with kind button eyes, and I hugged it tight every single night, breathing in its gentle fabric smell that somehow made the world feel a little kinder. But the moment Tara saw it, she cried and begged for the same one. Without hesitation, my father reached over and took it right from my arms to give to her. I burst into tears, my small chest aching with a hurt I could not name. All he said was, "Oliver, you are the older brother. You should give it to your sister." My mother nodded in agreement, not concerned about my feelings at all. At 12, after practicing for months, I had a piano recital. I had carefully placed 3 tickets on the dining table, one for Mom, one for Dad, and one for Tara. I was excited to see my parents in the crowd to finally make them proud. I scanned the audience before walking on stage, searching for their faces, but they never came. Tara had a slight cold, and they chose to take her to the doctor instead. My teacher drove me home afterward, trying to console me with words that could not fill the empty space my family should have occupied. At 14, I won a state-level science competition. No one mentioned it at home. That same day, Tara scored a single goal in her school soccer game. I am sure you can guess who got a party. Our living room was decorated with streamers and balloons. My father grilled her favorite foods in the backyard while my mother baked a cake with Superstar written in blue icing. I kept trying, kept hoping they would notice me. But no matter what I achieved, it was never enough. Honor roll, debate team captain, volunteer work at the local shelter. None of it seemed to penetrate the invisible barrier that kept me outside their circle of attention and affection. Then something happened when I turned 18 that changed everything. After high school, I earned a full scholarship to a top university 3 states away. The letter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon. I stood in the kitchen holding that acceptance letter, looking at my parents, hoping just once to see pride on their faces. But my father sighed and spoke gently, his expression more concerned than pleased. "Oliver, do you really need to go so far away for college? We are not well off, and if you leave, who will help us at home?" I stood there confused, the scholarship letter suddenly feeling heavier in my hands. Then my mother added bluntly, her lips pressed into a thin line, "Tara will be in college in 2 years. Her tuition will cost a lot. We cannot afford both of you." I was stunned, the words hitting me like physical blows. "But I have a scholarship. Everything is paid for," I said, pointing to the letter as if they might have misunderstood. My father shook his head, not meeting my eyes. "That is only tuition. What about rent, food, and other costs? Living away is expensive." And just like that, it hit me with crystal clarity. They were ready to cover everything for Tara's tuition, housing, meal plan, and spending money, but not even basic needs for me. The scholarship that should have been celebrated was instead being treated as an inconvenience, a disruption to their plans. I took a deep breath, gathered my strength, and said, I will manage. My scholarship covers living expenses. If needed, I will get a part-time job. I will not ask for help. I will not be anyone's burden. My voice did not waver, though something inside me was breaking apart. Silence filled the room, thick and uncomfortable. My father looked at my mother, waiting for her to say something. She sighed, crossed her arms, and muttered flatly, Do whatever you want. My father nodded, cold and indifferent. If that is your decision, I will not stop you. No joy, no support, no words of encouragement, just cold silence and no sadness that their son was leaving home for good. Their faces told me everything I needed to know. My departure was merely a logistical issue, not an emotional farewell. The next day, I packed everything I owned into 2 suitcases and a backpack. No one helped me carry them to the bus station. No one waved goodbye from the porch. That was the moment I stepped into a life of true independence, cutting the frayed threads that had barely connected me to my family. I moved into a dormitory, not because I liked it, but because I had no choice. Every dollar mattered in my new life. I counted pennies for laundry and skipped meals to save for textbooks. From that point, I knew if I wanted to survive, I was on my own. While other students chose majors based on passion or interest, I approached my education with calculated precision. I chose real estate as my major, not because I loved it, but because it was a fast track to earning money. In my situation, chasing dreams was not an option. I needed something practical to survive, something with clear metrics for success and tangible rewards for hard work. Through a school connection, I got a part-time job at a real estate agency near campus. The pay was low, just $15 an hour for answering phones and filing paperwork, but commissions came with every sale or lease. That incentive structure appealed to me, a direct correlation between effort and reward, something my family life had never provided. I threw myself into the job, determined to succeed where others saw only drudgery. I had no contacts, no experience, and no name. But I had determination forged through years of being overlooked. While others spent their free time at parties or campus events, I studied the market, practiced sales skills, and learned how to handle clients. I observed senior agents closely, memorizing how they spoke and persuaded customers, noting which approaches worked and which failed. Closing my first rental felt surreal. It was a small 2-bedroom apartment for a pair of graduate students. When I saw that $200 commission in my account, I stared at it in disbelief. For the first time, I earned real money through my own efforts, without begging or being made to feel guilty for having needs. That job paid my bills and covered my needs. While I continued my studies with single-minded focus, I started budgeting, saving, and planning every expense carefully. Sometimes my parents would call, but it was mostly out of formality, a checkmark on their parental duty list. Their questions were always shallow, skimming the surface of my life without interest in the depths. Are you doing okay? Still keeping up with school? Tara is working hard too. I kept my answers short. I am fine, I would say, offering nothing more. They never asked what I was really doing, nor did they care about my growing client base or the increasing numbers in my bank account. Eventually, I stopped bothering to share anything, learning that vulnerability was just another way to be disappointed. After graduation, with a GPA that placed me in the top 10% of my class, I had 3 years of experience and a strong client base. Instead of resting after 4 intense years of study and work, I jumped straight into full-time employment, closing deals, building my network, and collecting commissions that grew larger with each transaction. But I did not want to stay a broker forever, working to make someone else rich. I wanted ownership, control, independence, things I had never had in my family. I studied market trends, analyzed neighborhood developments, and tracked property values with obsessive attention to detail. I lived modestly, sharing an apartment with 2 roommates, driving a used car, eating simple meals at home. 2 years after graduation, I bought my first house, a $500,000 property in an up-and-coming neighborhood. I paid $300,000 up front, money I had saved dollar by dollar, and took a loan for the rest. It was not easy. I spent weeks calculating risks and weighing every detail, going over mortgage terms with a financial advisor I had carefully vetted. But deep down, I knew it was the right step. That day, I became a property owner, holding the keys in my hand and feeling for the first time that I truly belonged somewhere. I kept the purchase a secret from my family. There was no reason to tell them, no desire to seek approval that would never truly be given. It was my achievement, and it felt right keeping it to myself, protected from their indifference, or worse, their sudden interest, now that I had something they might want. That first property became the beginning of something bigger than I had initially imagined. I did not stop with one success. I kept working, investing, and expanding. I rented out the house, using the income to secure a second property, then a third. Within 5 years, I owned several apartments, commercial spaces, and even started investing in hotels. By 28, I had nearly everything I dreamed of: financial security, professional respect, and a growing empire that responded to my vision. Meanwhile, Tara, my sister, could not hold a job. She had graduated from a private college fully funded by my parents, who took out a second mortgage to cover her expenses, with a degree in communications but no clear career direction. She jumped from one place to another, never lasting beyond 6 months. Administrative assistant, social media coordinator, event planner. Each position ended with her quitting or being let go for reasons that were never her fault. Every time she failed, my parents made excuses, creating elaborate narratives that absolved her of responsibility. She just has not found the right job yet, they would say. That company did not see her potential. She is young. She can try different things. They never once held her accountable for her choices or encouraged her to develop persistence or resilience. I never planned to reveal how far I had come. But no matter how hard you try, some things eventually surface. 2 years ago, my father sent me a short message. "Are you free tomorrow? Come home for dinner." No greetings, no questions about my life or well-being. Just a cold invitation like I was a stranger. They were politely accommodating. I almost declined, my finger hovering over the maybe another time response I had drafted. But I hesitated, something in me still seeking what I had been denied for decades. Maybe this time, I thought, they genuinely wanted to see me, to bridge the gap that had grown between us. I reached their house at 7 o'clock in the evening, parking my modest sedan in the driveway. Everything felt unchanged as I walked up the familiar path to the front door. The house, the air, the way they looked at me like I never left, like I was still the invisible son who existed on the periphery of their attention. Dinner was typical, almost a replay of every meal we had shared since I was a child. Conversations revolved around Tara, her latest job prospect, her dating life, her plans for the future. "Tara is trying out a new job at a marketing firm," my mother said proudly, passing the potatoes. "She is thinking of launching a business," my father added, nodding encouragingly at my sister. "She just needs a bit more time to settle into her career path." I listened quietly, nodding at appropriate intervals, asking polite questions that were expected of me. None of it surprised me. This was the family dynamic that had shaped me, the golden child and the afterthought roles cast in concrete before I was old enough to understand the pattern. Then an unexpected moment shifted everything. While I was in the kitchen grabbing water, my phone buzzed on the dining table where I had left it. I heard it but ignored it, knowing I could check it later. Tara did not share my restraint. "Hey, did your girlfriend text?" "Let me check," she smirked, grabbing my phone with the casual entitlement she had always displayed toward my belongings. The screen lit up, showing notifications that could not be missed. Tara read instantly, her expression morphing from playful curiosity to stunned disbelief. Before I could stop her, she read it aloud, her voice rising with each word. "Contract confirmed. Hillside Retreat Resort purchase, $1,200,000. Silence swept across the room like a sudden frost. My mother blinked rapidly, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. My father put down his chopstick, staring at me as if seeing a stranger. Tara chuckled dryly, folding her arms across her chest, her expression a mix of shock and something darker or more resentful. "Are you serious? $1,200,000 for a resort?" she asked, her tone suggesting she expected me to deny it or explain it away as a joke or a mistake. No one spoke. Calmly, I took my phone, turned off the screen, and faced them. Their eyes screamed shock, disbelief, even resentment, emotions that should not accompany a family member's success if love were truly unconditional. My father's voice trembled slightly when he finally spoke. "Oh, is this real?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, I bought a small resort property." My mother's voice turned cold, accusatory. "Where did you get that kind of money?" I stayed silent, waiting for the question that would inevitably follow. As expected, Tara sneered. "How long have you been keeping this from us?" The tension thickened, almost palpable, in a dining room that suddenly felt too small. I placed my hands flat on the table, my voice steady when I finally answered. I did not hide it. No one ever asked. Their stares grew distant, as if I was a stranger who had appeared at their table without invitation. Minutes later, my father's voice softened unnaturally, taking on a tone I had rarely heard directed at me, one of approval, perhaps even admiration. I never imagined you would achieve this. I always thought you had a simple office job. I said nothing, just stared at him. He reached out, patting my hand gently. My son is talented, he announced as if he had always believed in me. If you told us earlier, we could have guided you better. I pulled my hand back quietly. I am fine managing on my own. He glanced at my mother and smiled, a conspiratorial look passing between them. What do you think? Should we move to a better house now? This place feels too small and outdated. It is only fair now that Oliver is doing well. My mother nodded, sipping her wine thoughtfully. There is a beautiful estate in the suburbs. Big yard, garden, spacious rooms, cost about $2 million. It should not be hard for Oliver now, with his success. I set my glass down. $2 million? My father smiled, eyes gleaming with expectation. Yes, a nicer home, enough rooms for everyone, space for guests, and entertaining. Do not you think this house feels cramped after all these years? I tilted my head, watching him carefully. So, you are asking me to buy a house for the family, he corrected himself quickly. Not buy it. The house stays in your name, but we will live there together. You are the successful one now. It is only fair you help out a little. I let out a dry laugh. His words sounded more like a business proposal than a family discussion, as if he was trying to pitch a profitable deal rather than asking his son for a multi-million-dollar gift. Before I could reply, Tara spoke, her tone calm but filled with expectation. Have you ever considered putting your money into a different sector? I turned toward her, curious despite myself. What kind of sector? She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, looking as if she had planned this moment carefully. A smirk crossed her face as she tapped her fingers on the table. My new house. I stayed quiet, waiting for her to explain. Sitting up straighter, she looked me directly in the eyes, her confidence unwavering. I found the perfect property in Lakeside Hills, she began. It is my dream home. 5 bedrooms, pool, home theater, the works. I just need you to fund it. I am looking for around $5 million to buy it outright and furnish it properly. My eyes widened at the figure. $5 million? I repeated, making sure I had heard correctly. Tara nodded seriously. Yes, you clearly have the resources. I have already told my friends about it. If I have to save up myself, it will take decades. But with your help, I could move in next month. Leaning back, I folded my arms across my chest. You want me to buy you a $5 million mansion? You are throwing around $5 million like it is spare change. Tara frowned, looking annoyed at being questioned. It is in the best neighborhood, perfect location, great schools nearby, amazing views. You do not need to worry about the details. Just know I have already picked out the furniture, I smirked. So basically, you want me to fund your luxury lifestyle while you have never held a steady job. You have not saved anything yourself or demonstrated any financial responsibility. Her face darkened. You do not trust me. I am your sister. What is wrong with supporting me for once? I gave a faint laugh, but inside I felt hollow. The absurdity of her accusation striking against decades of being the one without support. My father's patience thinned visibly. Oliver, stop being selfish. Your family needs you right here. Here you are counting every penny with your sister. My mother added sharply, It is not even a big deal, Oliver. With your money, a few $100,000 means nothing. I stared at them, then looked back at Tara. If it is so insignificant, why do not you fund it yourself? You are her parents. You have supported her this far. Tara threw her hands up in exasperation. Because I do not want to waste years scraping together coins when you are sitting on millions. If I had the capital now, I could multiply it tenfold. I nodded slowly. So what you really want is a shortcut, not to build something for nothing. Not to prove your concept is viable, just immediate access to wealth you have not earned. Her jaw tightened. It is not a shortcut. I just want a fair shot. I chuckled again, not out of humor, but because it was painfully familiar. Some people do get help from their families, I agreed mildly. I just was not one of them. My father's voice rose. Oliver, you are being ridiculous. Helping your sister is not too much to ask. $5 million is a lot, I agree, but you could at least invest a few $100,000 to get her started. My mother sighed heavily. We are not asking for much, just some help for your sister and a better place for your parents to live. You cannot live your life only thinking about yourself. I placed both hands on the table and spoke slowly. You are right. You have never asked me for anything. They stared, waiting for what came next. I gave them a faint, tired smile. Because you have always assumed I owe you, that I exist to provide what you want when you want it, without question. The air grew suffocating. No one dared speak. I stood, pushing my chair back into place. I think I will be leaving now. Tara shot up, her voice rising. You cannot just walk away. Have you ever thought about this family? About anyone but yours? Ulf? I met her gaze directly. Has this family ever thought about me? Silence. I walked toward the door, but paused with my hand on the doorknob, turning back once more. You call me selfish, but has it ever crossed your minds who the truly selfish ones in this family are? And with that, I left, believing they would finally let me go. If something similar has happened to you in your own family, write in the comments and share your thoughts with us. You are not alone, and your story matters here. But I was wrong. Their greed ran deeper than I had imagined. They were not just desperate for quick financial relief, they were far more ruthless than I ever anticipated. A year passed. My parents' calls and texts faded. I assumed they had given up seeing me as their personal bank, but in reality, they had other plans. Behind my back, they mortgaged the house and gave the money to Tara for her startup. No one told me. I found out when it was already done. That day, I sat in my office when my phone buzzed. My father's name flashed on the screen. What is it, Dad? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. He sighed heavily. Oh, we are about to lose the house, he said, his voice trembling. I froze. What do you mean, lose the house? We took a mortgage. Now the bank is ready to seize it. The payments. We cannot make them anymore. I straightened in my chair. You mortgaged the house. Why? Your mother and I invested in a restaurant. A friend promised it would profit quickly. It seemed like a good opportunity. You risked the house for that. I snapped. It sounded safe at the time, he defended. They said it was a small contribution, but the business failed completely. I gripped the phone tighter. How much did you take out against the house? After a pause, he whispered, $300,000. My heart dropped. $300,000, I repeated, struggling to stay calm. He broke down. Please, Oliver, if we do not repay, we will lose everything. Can you help us? It is just $300,000. We'll pay you back. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply. You want me to cover your $300,000 debt just like that? Yes, he confirmed eagerly. Just a loan. I promise we will repay. I opened my eyes, staring out the window. I could easily afford the amount, but something felt wrong. I need time to think about this, I answered steadily. He panicked immediately. Oliver, there is no time. The bank already sent a final notice. If you do not help us now, we are finished. I tightened my grip on the phone. I understand your urgency, but I still need time to consider all the implications. Before he could argue further, I hung up. Immediately, I called Jessica, my closest friend and a financial analyst I trusted implicitly. I need you to check my parents' house situation, I said firmly. They claim the bank is about to seize it due to a mortgage they cannot pay. I want the full financial history. Something feels off about their story. A short pause. Got it. I will call you back as soon as I have something. As night settled, Jessica's call came through. I picked up instantly. Oliver, you were right to be suspicious. The house was indeed mortgaged for a $300,000 loan about 8 months ago. My grip on the phone tightened, but before I could react, she continued. But there is a bigger issue you need to know about. I tensed. What do you mean? Jessica inhaled sharply. Your parents are not the ones who signed the loan. Tara is listed as the sole borrower. Legally, she owns the house now. I sat frozen, unable to process the implications. Say that again. Tara owns the house. Your parents transferred the deed to her name, and then she took out the mortgage. The loan is entirely under her name, not theirs. My pulse raced. When did that happen? Why would they transfer their only major asset to her? Jessica hesitated. They signed it over to her a year ago. Oliver, right after that dinner when they found out how wealthy you had become. A cold wave washed over me. This was not an accident or a desperate move. It was a plan carefully crafted from the start. The moment they learned about my money, they had set this trap, transferring the house to create a situation where I would feel compelled to rescue them. Jessica, by tomorrow morning, I need every document tied to this deed transfer, mortgage agreement, payment history, everything. Consider it done. And Oliver, I am sorry. This is not right. I ended the call already knowing what needed to be done. This would be the final conversation with the people who had never truly been family to me. The next morning, I drove straight to my parents' house. It was barely dawn, the neighborhood quiet and still. I was not in a rush, but my mind was set. My father spotted me first as I approached the front door. All right, you came, he said, relief washing over his face. My mother stepped out, coffee cup in hand. She raised an eyebrow, but her face soon shifted into a pleased smile. You have made up your mind, have not you? My father asked hopefully. You will help us. I stayed silent, scanning each of them. My mother sat calmly, confident I would fall back into the obedient son role. Tara lounged lazily as if none of this mattered. I stepped inside, placed a folder on the glass table, and pulled out a chair. "We need to talk." They exchanged a quick glance, then sat opposite me. My father offered a forced, gentle smile. I opened the folder, laying the mortgage papers on the table. "You told me the bank is taking the house. The truth. A year ago, you signed everything over to Tara and borrowed $300,000. My father's smile faded instantly. I continued, my voice calm but sharp. "No one forced you. You handed Tara the property, then took the loan, and you lied, claiming a restaurant deal. There was no investment. You gave Tara the money directly." The air grew heavy. My father stiffened, his face pale. My mother's knuckles turned white on the chair's armrest. Tara did not flinch, relaxed and unaffected. My father finally muttered, voice trembling, "None of that matters now. What matters is we need your help to save the house." I let out a cold chuckle. "So, you lied, thinking if I believed you were cornered, I would just hand over the money without asking questions." My mom cleared her throat, her patience running out. "Oliver, you are making this a bigger deal than it is. The money is already spent. What matters now is whether you will help your family." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, and met their eyes. "No, what matters is that you lied to me." My dad blinked quickly as if shocked by my words. Tara let out a dry chuckle and crossed her arms. "So what? You can still help?" I turned to her, my eyes filled with disgust. "Tara, this is your problem. You took out the loan, wasted all the money, and now you expect me to fix it?" She shrugged, completely unbothered. "You can help. You have millions. $300,000 is nothing to you." My dad nodded eagerly. "That is right, Oliver. Family is supposed to help each other," is nodded. I let out a short, empty laugh and crossed my arms. Family? Where was my family when I struggled to pay for college, when I worked endlessly to buy my first home? Did either of you ever ask how I was? Did you care when I built my career from nothing? My mom clenched her jaw, her voice turning cold. "Oliver, you are being selfish." My dad quickly added, "You have all this money, but refuse to give your parents just $300,000. Do you even have a heart?" I did not blink. I did not look away. "If it is such a small amount, why do not you make it yourselves?" My dad opened his mouth to argue, but said nothing. I looked at them, people who used to be my family, but now we were just strangers full of greed. I took a deep breath and spoke. "If you agree to sell this house to me, I will think about buying it and letting you stay." My dad's face went blank as if he could not process what I said. My mom's expression darkened. Tara shot up from her seat, staring at me speechless for the first time. I kept my voice calm. "If you just need a place to live, I will take care of it in the most practical way. But if you think I will keep letting you take advantage of me, do not waste your time." My mom's knuckles turned white as she gripped the table. Then suddenly, she grabbed a glass and threw it to the floor. The sharp crash echoed through the room. She stood up, face red with anger. "You are no son of mine. Get out." My dad gasped, staring at her. Tara sat frozen, disbelief in her eyes. I looked at my mother, my expression empty. No anger, no sadness, no pain, just nothing. I turned and walked to the door. This time I did not look back. The door shut behind me. They created this mess, and this time I was not coming back to fix it. Like this. If you understand this feeling of standing up for yourself after years of being overlooked, and share the video with your friends so they can learn about this story. I thought it was over. I let them keep the house, but they refused to accept my terms. After that, I never called, texted, or checked on them. It was not my problem anymore. Then a week later, an email from my lawyer appeared in my inbox. Lawsuit for parental support. I opened it, my stomach dropping as I scanned the contents. They were suing me. They wanted me to send them money every month, saying I was responsible for them because I was their son. They claimed they had sacrificed so much for me. They accused me of being selfish, reckless, and abandoning them in their time of need. They even claimed they had no home, no income, and that I was legally required to support them for the rest of their lives. I smirked, a cold, empty smile. Had they really gone this far? I used to think their greed had limits. I was wrong. They did not just want my money. They wanted to force me to pay for their mistakes. I grabbed my phone and called my lawyer. My voice was calm but sharper than ever. They want to fight in court. Fine, I will make sure they never forget this lesson. Preparing for the trial did not take long. My parents thought they could use the law to force me to support them, but they forgot one thing. I was not the same helpless boy they once controlled. On the day of the hearing, I arrived right on time, walking into the courtroom with complete confidence. My parents were already seated. My father looked older, his face filled with bitterness. My mother sat stiffly, her expression cold. I felt nothing. No sadness, no anger, no pain, just disgust. Their lawyer started with a dramatic speech painting them as poor, helpless parents who had given up everything to raise me only to be abandoned. He pointed out that I was wealthy and claimed that giving them $5,000 a month would be nothing for me. $5,000 a month. Even now, they were still trying to take from me. They made me sound like a heartless son who had cruelly thrown his parents away. Then my lawyer stood up with a calm, steady voice. He laid out the facts. My parents chose to mortgage their house. They signed it over to Tara, not me. The $300,000 loan was hers, not mine. Since I was 18, I had never received a cent from them. Legally, I owed them nothing. The judge checked the documents, then said firmly, there is no legal reason for the defendant to provide financial support. This case is dismissed. One sentence. It hit them like a shockwave. My father turned pale, lips shaking. My mother clenched her fists. Tara, who always acted like nothing bothered her, looked truly afraid for the first time. They had bet everything on this lawsuit, and they lost. As the trial ended, I stepped closer to them and met their eyes. In a quiet, steady voice, I said, "This is the last time we will ever see each other. I gave you a chance, and you threw it away." My father gasped, tears rolling down his face. "Oh, you cannot just leave us like this." I smirked. "You left me a long time ago." I turned and walked away. They had not just lost money, they had lost their only son. A year passed. I never heard from them again. No calls, no messages, no fake apologies. I expected them to come back to lie and beg for more money, but they did not. They disappeared as if they had never been part of my life. My closest friend Jessica was the last person to tell me anything about them. One evening, while we were having coffee, she suddenly said, "I heard something about your parents." I put my cup down and asked, "Where are they?" Jessica shook her head. "No one knows. After the bank took their house, they left, and no one has seen them since." I sat there for a moment, but I felt nothing. "Do any of the relatives know?" I asked. Jessica shrugged. "If they do, they are not saying anything. Right now, they are all calling you heartless." I let out a dry laugh. Not surprised at all. "Let me guess. They are saying I have millions, but refuse to spend $300,000 to save the house, and now no one knows if my parents are even alive." Jessica nodded. "Something like that." I leaned back in my chair, looking out the window. The city was bright, the buildings glowing with lights. In the last year, I had grown my business and achieved even greater success, and I had no regrets at all. I later heard through mutual connections that Tara had been telling everyone about the mansion she planned to buy with my money. She had even scheduled viewings and meetings with interior designers before I refused. She had been so certain of my compliance that she had already started planning housewarming parties. I did not care what my relatives thought. I did not care about their judgmental looks. Not a single one of them helped when I had to survive alone at 18. None of them checked on me when I worked 3 jobs just to keep going. No one reached out when I struggled to save enough to buy my first home. So why should I care about their opinions now? Months passed. My business continued to grow. I expanded into international markets, opened a charitable foundation focusing on education for underprivileged children, and even began mentoring young entrepreneurs who reminded me of myself, driven, determined, and often alone in their journey. Then, on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Jessica called me. Her voice was tense. "Oliver, I found them." My heart skipped a beat. "My parents?" "Yes," she confirmed. "They are living in a small apartment on the other side of the city. Your father had a stroke 3 months ago. They are struggling financially. Tara abandoned them after the lawsuit failed." I said nothing for a long moment. "How did you find this out?" "One of my clients knows them." She mentioned their situation, not realizing I knew you. I thanked Jessica and hung up. For hours, I sat in my office watching the rain streak down the windows, thinking about what to do with this information. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to continue the clean break I had made. Another part wondered if I would regret walking away. Now, 2 days later, I found myself standing outside a rundown apartment building across town. I had the address written on a small piece of paper, though I did not need to check it. I had memorized it immediately. I stood there for nearly 20 minutes debating whether to go in or walk away. Finally, I pressed the buzzer for apartment 43. No answer. I pressed again. After a long pause, a weak voice came through the intercom. "Who is it?" It is Oliver, I said simply. Silence, then a buzz as the door unlocked. The elevator was out of order, so I climbed. 4 flights of stairs. The hallway was dimly lit, the carpet worn thin by years of use. I found their door and knocked softly. When my mother opened it, she had aged a decade in just 2 years. Her hair was completely gray now, her face lined with worry and hardship. She stared at me in shock, unable to speak. "May I come in?" I asked quietly. She stepped aside silently. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living room barely large enough for a couch and a television. My father sat in a recliner by the window, a blanket over his legs. The right side of his face drooped slightly. He turned when I entered, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Oliver," he whispered. His speech slurred from the stroke. I nodded, standing awkwardly in the center of the room. No one spoke for what felt like an eternity. Finally, my father broke the silence. "Why are you here?" A simple question with a complicated answer. I took a deep breath. "I heard about your stroke," I said. "I wanted to see how you were doing." My mother laughed bitterly. "Now you care." After 2 years of silence, I met her gaze steadily. "You sued me. You tried to force me to support you." "What did you expect?" My father shifted in his chair. "We were desperate," he admitted. "We lost everything." I looked around the small apartment at the medication bottles lined up on the kitchen counter, at the past due notices partially hidden under a magazine. "Where's Tara?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. My mother's face hardened. She left. Once the money was gone, she had no use for us either. The irony was not lost on me. The daughter they had sacrificed everything for had abandoned them the moment they could not provide for her anymore. My father coughed, a harsh, painful sound. "We made mistakes, Oliver," he said slowly, each word an effort. "We favored Tara. We took you for granted. We were wrong." I stood there processing his words, the first acknowledgement of wrongdoing I had ever heard from either of them. It was not a full apology, but it was something more than I had expected. "Yes," I agreed simply. "You were." My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Are you here to remind us of that? To see us suffering and feel justified?" I shook my head. "No, that is not why I came." "Then why?" she demanded. I looked out the window at the gray sky, gathering my thoughts. "I came because I needed to see for myself that you were okay," I finally said. "Not great, clearly, but alive. And I came because I wanted to know if I would feel anything when I saw you again." "And do you?" my father asked, his voice barely audible. I considered the question honestly. "I do not know yet," I admitted. "I spent so many years hoping you would see me. Really see me. Then I spent more years trying to stop caring whether you did or not. I am not sure what I feel now." I reached into my pocket and pulled out a business card, placing it on the coffee table. "This is my attorney's contact information. Call him tomorrow. He will arrange for your medical expenses to be covered and find you a better place to live." My mother stared at the card. "Why would you help us now after everything?" "I am not doing it for you," I said truthfully. "I am doing it for me because I do not want to be the kind of person who could walk away knowing you needed help even after everything you did. That is not who I am." I moved toward the door, then paused. "I do not know if we will ever have a relationship again. I do not know if that is even possible after everything that has happened, but I do know I do not want you to suffer." My father tried to stand, but his weakened legs would not support him. "Son," he began, his voice breaking. I raised a hand to stop him. "Do not thank me. Do not make promises. Just call the lawyer tomorrow." As I walked back down those 4 flights of stairs, I felt lighter somehow. Not healed. I doubted that would ever happen completely, but clearer. I had broken the cycle. I had chosen to be better than what had been done to me. Not out of obligation, but out of my own sense of what was right. Outside, the rain had stopped, and a faint rainbow arched across the eastern sky. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, looking up at it. Then I walked to my car and drove away toward the life I had built for myself. I do not know what will happen with my parents. Maybe we will slowly rebuild some kind of relationship. Maybe we will not. But for the first time in my life, I know with absolute certainty that their approval does not define me. Their love or lack of it does not determine my worth. I build myself from nothing. I am enough exactly as I am. What do you think will happen next for Oliver and his parents? Write your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to hit the bell so you do not miss any new stories.